Love's Next Door, Chapter 6. Third time better be a charm, because the first 2 times I tried this, somebody called. It was late Sunday night. Stacy sat in her bedroom with a cup of tea nestled between her hands, and Heidi curled up beside her, fast asleep. Stacy sipped her tea, letting her mind wander. Had Justin found out about Cheryl and her mystery man? How much longer would it take? What will he do when he finds out? She felt as a friend she should run right over and let him in on the nasty stuff that was going on behind his back, but it just wasn't her place to do. Startled by the ringing of the telephone, she spilled a splash of hot coffee on her nightgown. Quickly she pulled the garment away from her skin and gently set her cup down on the bedside table. "Hello," she said anxiously, thinking it was Lizzie calling. "Hi," Justin said in his usual sexy tone. Stacy paused for a moment, uncertain what to say. "Don't act like anything's wrong," she told herself sternly. Then, with false bravado, she spoke. "Well, hello, Sugar and Lance. How are you?" Justin sighed, loud enough for Stacy to hear. "I'm going to ask you nicely, one more time. Stop calling me that, or—" She cut him off before he could finish his threat. "Or what?" She laughed, trying to sound cheerful like her old self. "Or I'll come over there and toilet paper your house." He could hear a giggle, and he felt relieved that what happened 2 nights ago hadn't altered their friendship. Then the tone in his voice changed as he continued with the conversation. "I called to ask you about something that's extremely important to me." Justin sounded very serious, and Stacy caught her breath. He must know about Cheryl. Over the last few days, Stacy had tried to think of a way to let Justin know what they had discovered without telling him directly. Unfortunately, no great inspiration had come to mind, and now he was sure Justin was calling to ask if she'd heard any rumors. "Stacy, are you there?" Justin asked, shaking her from her nightmare. "Don't panic. Whatever you do, don't panic," she told herself firmly. "Oh, sorry," she said nervously. "What did you want to know?" she asked as she fell back against the headboard and waited for the bomb to drop. "Come on, Stacy, don't play dumb with me. I think you know what I'm talking about. Or has your mind suddenly gone blank about the whole thing?" Stacy moved her mouth, but nothing came out. "No," she said very quietly, almost in a whisper. Here it comes, she thought. "Someone has a birthday tomorrow," he said, launching into an off-key rendition of Happy Birthday. "That's what you wanted to tell me?" she said, laughing. "Did I miss something?" he asked. "Oh, no," she said, regaining her normal voice. "I don't know how it happened, but I totally forgot about my birthday." Stacy always preferred to try and let her birthday slide by unnoticed each year. Unfortunately, Justin never seemed to forget the occasion. In fact, he reveled in the opportunity to poke fun and provide payback for her many pranks. "Sure you did, Stacy. We go through this every year, so tomorrow Lizzie and I are taking you to dinner." It was a statement, not a question. "What about Cheryl?" she asked. "Cheryl's out of town attending a conference and won't be back until the day after tomorrow. So don't worry, you won't have to pretend to smile and act agreeable around her. Now you have no reason to back out," he said, making his point with a little laugh. Stacy sighed. "Just once, I would really enjoy staying home for my birthday, but I know you won't let me, so tell me the time and place and I'll be there. But please don't make a fuss." "Fine by me," Justin said. "Lizzie and I need to talk, and we'll let you know the details tomorrow. Don't worry, you'll have fun. Rest up, and I'll talk to you later." Stacy let the phone drop into its cradle and breathed a sigh of relief. She hoped he would find out about Cheryl soon before her nerves gave out. She had no sooner put down the phone when it rang. This time it was Lizzie. "Lizzie, I hadn't talked to you since we had lunch at the deli, and I ended up with this upset stomach." "Sorry, friend, I've been busy. I just called to make sure you're free for tomorrow night." "Justin just called to let me know that we're going out tomorrow to celebrate my birthday," Stacy said with a deep sigh. "I don't know what the big deal is about birthdays with you. I think it's sweet how he remembers your birthday every year. Half the time I can't remember my own, never mind someone else's." "I don't mean to sound ungrateful. It's just when he called I almost had a heart attack. I thought that for sure he was calling because he found out about Cheryl. And by the way, Cheryl's out of town at a conference for the next couple days and won't be joining us tomorrow. I wonder if it's business or monkey business. Well, it's a good thing she'll be away, because she sure wouldn't be welcome at our party. It's terrible what she's doing, and I'm going to keep following up, and somehow we'll make sure Justin finds out. Lizzie, I think you should stop before you get in too deep." Lizzie laughed. "I can't. It's driving me crazy. But if it helps, I won't tell you what I find out. That way you won't have to worry, okay?" "Yeah, right. As if you could keep it to yourself for more than 5 seconds. Anyway, you give it your best shot, Columbo." They ended their conversation with a laugh, and then said goodnight. With Heidi snuggled beside her, Stacy turned the bedside table bedside light off, and curled up under the warm covers. As soon as she closed her eyes, an image appeared of Justin fondling her in the snow. She was unable to ignore the seductive picture and gave in to the emotion of the scene, aroused, embraced it, surrendered to it, and took it with her into a sweet, deep slumber, dreaming. The next morning, Stacy opened her eyes and stretched before crawling from her cozy, warm bed. She squirmed from under the soft duvet and pulled herself upright, swinging her legs over the side of the mattress. Another week had begun, and Stacy wondered what surprises the next few days would bring. She padded barefoot from the bed to the dresser and closet, gathering her clothes for the day. After a quick shower, she pulled a pair of black spandex tights and a gray sweatshirt. She grabbed her brush and ran it through her shoulder-length mop of brown hair, then tidied up the bathroom and went into the kitchen to start a pot of coffee. Within minutes, she had a warm mug of coffee in her hand, and the rich aroma stirred her senses. After a couple of sips, she felt the caffeine kick in. She moaned, closing her eyes. Coffee makes the world go round, she said to herself and Heidi. Heidi sat by the food dish, waiting for Stacy to notice the dish was empty. The dog made its usual demanding noise, finally catching her attention. "Oh, I'm sorry. Am I ignoring you this morning?" she said as she scooped up and pulled the dog food from the cupboard and began filling her pet's empty dish. Heidi eagerly rubbed against Stacy as she finished filling the bowl. Slowly she bent over and ever so gently began stroking the soft fur behind her dog's ears. A few quiet moments with her friend Heidi and a great cup of coffee. What a perfect way to start her birthday. Drawing back to reality, Stacy turned to the table and began itemizing the work she had to complete during the upcoming week so she could book some well-deserved holidays. With scheduling finished, she retrieved her briefcase and walked down the narrow staircase to her basement office. She flipped on the light switch and looked around the room. The most predominant piece of furniture was the green Chesterfield, nicknamed the Green Dragon, after her first storybook her father had read to her many years ago. The Green Dragon sat against the far wall and was the principal reading lounge for the editing of manuscripts good enough to make it to the final stage. The couch was a relic dating back to when her parents first married and their initial attempts at furnishing a home. What the couch lacked in style, it more made up for in comfort. When she had curled up on its well-worn pillows to study for her high school exams, her mother had called her the Dragon Lady. Now, as an editor, she thought, smiling to herself, the name truly fit. Initially, some of her writers were not happy with the changes she made in her work, but in the end, they grew to appreciate her wonderful eye for the written word. Stacy set her briefcase on the desk and turned on the computer and checked her electronic email for important messages. As usual, lots of email, but nothing urgent. Logging off her computer, she returned to her briefcase and removed the manuscript she'd been reviewing for days, the initial work of a promising young writer. Armed with a rusty red pen, Stacy took the manuscript to the couch and dove into what she hoped would be the final edit. She flopped down and put her feet up, turned on the lamp beside her, and set upon her task. The Dragon Lady began to splash and burn, flushing out the debris and honing the manuscript into shape. Hours later, she practically crawled off the couch, her neck and back stiff and sore. She stood up and dropped the manuscript and pencil on the desk and reached her hands high above her head to stretch out the knots and kinks that had silently penetrated her body. She powered up the computer, checked her email again, and fired off a status report to her commander-in-chief, pausing for the message verification before turning off the computer for the afternoon break. As she climbed the stairs, returning to the kitchen, her thoughts drifted Justin. She needed to confirm the details for tonight. She picked up the phone and dialed his number, hanging up after the fourth ring without leaving a message on his machine. She couldn't help but think about Cheryl and the mystery man as she put the phone down in the receiver. Stacy leaned against the counter and looked out the kitchen window at the wintry scene. A fresh new blanket of pure white snow covered the ground. She watched helplessly as the snowplow drove by, pushing a heaping mound of snow into her driveway. Damn, she said, talking to herself. Something that had become a habit lately. Sliding into her jacket and boots, she walked out to the house into the bright afternoon sun, pausing at the doorway to inhale the crisp air as she pulled on her hat and mitts. She'd been at it for 20 minutes, but had only made a little dent in the thick, heavy snow pile at the end of her driveway. Her mouth was dry, and her cheeks had taken a rosy glow. The pushing, piling, and throwing of the mix of snow, salt, and sand made her arms and shoulders ache. Behind her, she could hear a car approaching as she triumphantly tossed another shovelful of snow. Surprisingly, it was Justin, who who must be taking the day off work. As he neared, he acknowledged Stacy with a broad grin and pulled up alongside the place where the curb used to be. Climbing from his car, he approached her. "Hell of a way to spend your birthday." Stacy slowly straightened up to take in his athletic frame as he waded through the snow towards her. She saw that he was wearing jeans and a bomber jacket, but she hardly had time to appreciate how great he looked as spasms of pain shot through her back. "How come you're not at work?" Take the day off to celebrate my birthday?" Justin ignored the question for a moment, noticing his favorite neighbor grimace as she attempted to stretch her back. "Are you okay?" "My body's not used to all this activity," she said, smiling. "The pain is just a reminder that I have a desk job." "Give me the shovel and pull up a snowbank and sit down," he said. "You need to be pampered on your birthday." Am I almost done with this chapter? Yep. "Don't remind me, and don't ask if I feel any older, because right now I do," she said dryly. Stacy quite enjoyed the view from her vantage point. Justin had his back to her, and she watched as his jeans tightened and stretched with his every movement. It would be illegal to have a butt that tight, she thought. Her mind wandered to the heated encounter the other night and the indentation their bodies had left in the snow. The silent, telltale signs she was sure were now covered by the recent snowfall. The memories, however, were fresh again as she silently admired his athletic body. Justin suddenly swung around, catching her off guard, and a knowing smile on his face. He must have eyes in the back of his head, she thought. Stacy stammered, wondering if somehow he had read her mind. Do you have the day off?" Justin took another shovelful of snow and heaved it aside. "To be honest, I took the day off so I could prepare for your birthday bash tonight," he chuckled, as he flashed a grin at Stacy and heaved the last shovelful of snow from the driveway. He walked over to her, paused, leaned the shovel up against the snowbank. "Stand up and put your arms out," he ordered. Stacy slowly got up off her perch, still feeling the effects of her brief encounter with the snow shovel. Obediently, she thrust her arms out at her sides. Justin moved close to her until they were toe-to-toe. Placing his arms around hers, he lifted her up into the air and held her there as he counted. 1, 2, 3, then he gently put her back down. "That ought to help your back," he said. Stacy bent from side to side and broke into a grin. "It's fixed. You're a genius." "That's your birthday present," he laughed, moving back a step or two. "I really do appreciate your help and the back adjustment. Do you have time for a cup of coffee?" "No, but I wish I could. I need to get back home and prepare for the conference call later this afternoon, but thanks," he said, and turned to walk towards his car. Stacy couldn't resist. "So, Justin, what's the plan for tonight?" "Never mind, you'll find out later. Lizzie will give you a call this afternoon with the details," he said as he continued to stroll to his car. Stacy watched as he got into his car and pulled from the curb with a parting nod, smugly continuing the suspense over the plans for her evening's birthday activities. A gush of wind snapped her back to reality as she turned up her collar and made for the side of the house with the shovel. When Stacy opened the door and walked into her home, Heidi came skidding across the corner from the front room, tumbling into her legs. "Well, howdy, partner," she said in her best cowboy impression as she hung up her coat. "What's a nice little dog like you doing in a joint like this?" She laughed as she patted her soft fur and motioned for Heidi to follow her. Stacy returned to her office to complete a few hours of work. Sitting on the green dragon, she could feel her attention span narrowing, her mind wandering, thinking of Justin and her closeness when he lifted her off the ground. "Oh, quit it," she scolded herself. "Get over it." Stacy decided to pack it in for the day and indulge herself in a much-needed soak in the bathtub. After all, it was her birthday. She quickly turned off her computer and headed up the stairs for the bathroom, where she poured peach-scented bubble bath into the steamy water flowing from the tap. She watched the mounds of bubbles climb the sides of the tub as she stepped out of her clothes and crawled into the foam. With a sigh of relief, she lay back against the tub, inhaling the sweet smell that filled the room, secretly pleased that she would be with Justin and Lizzie, her two best friends, on her birthday. That's the end of Chapter 6.